Story 1. An early sign a relationship will work is when difficult conversations do not feel like threats. They feel like teamwork. Story 2. Active listening. Yes, you may still disagree and argue about things, but choose what is truly important. Give and take. Lose some, win others. Be compassionate. Sometimes you have to admit you were wrong. You are one team, the same team. Story 3. Similar goals and expectations that both parties actively talk about and discuss with each other. The older I get, the more it seems that relationships can be explained like this. It is a team effort in achieving a common goal while maintaining a sense of mutual well-being, joy, and respect. Story 4. If you are sick, ill, or injured and someone decides to come around and take care of you, rather than just ignore you until you get better, it means they are committed for the long term. Story 5. I believe there are no early signs of long-term success. There can be early signs of failure that indicate a relationship will be short-lived. However, even a good relationship that started out well with all the right healthy behaviors can be ruined by a sudden unexpected problem. Story 6. I'll be honest with you, there isn't one. There is no sign that will 100% guarantee that a relationship is going to work. You could click on every single level with your prospective partner and be so perfect for each other that it feels like you were made for one another. And the relationship can still fail. However, the ones I think have the best shot are body chemistry, both in and out of the bedroom. Does it look like the couple just want to be with one another? Are they constantly touching, or at least touching each other more than they would ever touch anyone else? Ideals. Do they both think the same, have the same set of morals and the same goals? These have to be similar enough that they feel like a united front when it matters, but just different enough that they have something to talk about. Being exactly the same on everything can often lead to boredom as things grow stale. Story 7. Honestly, I think you start to know someone is right for you and it will work when they make you feel safe and secure. Not just when things are easy, but especially when you are carrying baggage. It is in those moments when you open up about something that triggered you, and instead of brushing it off, they actually try to understand where you are coming from. They listen, reassure you, and make you feel like your feelings matter. That kind of emotional safety early on says a lot. Story 8. Having future goals and plans that align, given that feelings, attraction, respect, and communication are already present. Story 9. You feel like they complement and support you while not being codependent. You can communicate and resolve conflicts while being understanding of the other person but also advocate for yourself, balancing the idea that there are better hills to die on. Feeling safe and trusting them is paramount. Story 10. You feel safe being your unique, honest, and slightly unconventional self, and they smile without hesitation. Story 11. At least one person thinks it is attractive when the other person is upset. If you are attracted to your partner when they are strict or defiant, you will come back together after a fight. You will stay closer longer throughout the duration of the relationship. Story 12. When you have those funny mind meld moments, like when one of you says something seemingly random, and you both respond with lyrics to the same song because there is a connection to what was said that you are both reminded of at the same time. Story 13. You feel calm being around each other. The other person soothes your nerves. You rarely fight or have misunderstandings. Story 14. Communication and a lack of defensiveness are crucial. Getting defensive in response to complaints or requests causes significant damage. Similarly, with criticism, learn to communicate without being critical. Story 15. I am going to go with both partners being able to freely reflect and apologize or just make silent adjustments in order to improve the relationship. Everyone has adjustments they can make to improve themselves and how positively they contribute to their relationships, but many people do not put in the effort to do so. It is not very common to find someone who does, but to me, regardless of gender and situation, that is the biggest positive sign. Story 16:1. Your values and priorities align. When conversation feels almost effortless. When you do not feel that you are having to try. When you feel you can trust that person. When the other person invests as much time in your time together as you do. By the time my wife and I had our third date, it was almost certain that we would be together. Story 17. Actions really do speak louder than words. My fiancé has consistently proven that to me, and I love him for it. I can always depend on him. Story 18, when they start improving themselves without effort. Also friendship, laughter, and playfulness. Story 19, they actually listen when you are talking instead of just waiting for their turn to speak. You can tell because they will bring up something you mentioned days later or ask follow-up questions about things you care about. This shows they are paying attention to you as a person, not just going through the motions. Also, when disagreements do not turn into battles, you can have different opinions without it becoming personal or dramatic. Story 20. Coming from an introvert, when the first 5 minutes of the first date feel like you are talking to a very good friend you have not seen in a decade. Story 21. I love that my wife tells me things that bother her in the moment and allows me to explain, interject, or apologize. She listens and does not berate. We work out problems and do not let them fester. Story 22. Transparency. I don't care what you are doing all day every day, but a simple, sorry, work was busy and I am just now looking at my phone, personally goes a long way with me rather than simply not replying for days. Story 23. Help please. He doesn't open up to me but confesses everything to a stranger on Reddit as if they have known each other forever. Story 24. For my wife and me, it was a combination of factors. The number one reason was that I always felt certain with her. I never had doubts or worries about our relationship. When we moved in together within a few months of dating, I did not feel worried at all. With previous girlfriends, that situation would have caused me panic attacks. For me, that was how I knew we were meant to be. We simply worked. Story 25. One of the main signs is a sense of ease. When you do not have to pretend, when you can be yourself and feel accepted just the way you are. When even after an argument, there is a desire to work things out, not run away. When being with that person feels calm, warm, and somehow just right. And of course, when you both look in the same direction, even if you are walking at different paces. Story 26. I knew it would work when I got food poisoning 3 weeks into dating. Instead of running away, he came over with electrolyte drink, crackers, and his laptop loaded with movies. He sat outside the bathroom door telling me jokes while I was dying of embarrassment. Story 27. You do not stay mad at each other long and can resolve conflict and move forward. Also, you can acknowledge where you both went wrong. Knowing how to apologize is necessary from both sides. Story 28. There are no early signs. That is why you work on it together. Relationships usually start off well in the beginning. Ask any divorced person. Most will say things were fine at first. Story 29. One of the strongest early signs for me is when conflict does not feel like a battle, but a problem two people are solving together. If you can disagree without trying to win and actually listen without planning your comeback, that is rare and incredibly powerful. Also, when apologies are not weaponized later. A healthy relationship feels safe to be wrong sometimes, without fear of being judged or shamed. At the end of the day, it is not about always agreeing. It is about knowing you are both on the same side, even during a disagreement. Story 30. She does not have a sexual relationship with her past friend with benefits while you are at work, 2 months into the relationship. Story 31. Positive, constructive communication. If you manage to have that, and obviously assuming you love each other, I would say you are at least halfway there already. Story 32. He doesn't open up to me. I went through his phone and he was talking to someone on Reddit, confessing everything as if they had known each other forever. I feel lost and alone. Story 33. When they do not judge you for eating cereal for dinner 3 nights in a row and still want to text you back. If they survive your unusual Spotify playlists and terrible jokes, congratulations, you are in the maybe forever club. Story 34. Not even 3 months into dating, I had just received a promotion at my job. However, it affected my paycheck, so I would not be paid until the following month. Without hesitation, she paid my rent for that month. I paid her back over the next 2 months, but I was very grateful for that gesture when she did not have to offer. That was one of the first signs I knew it was going to work out between us, and it showed the kind of compassion she had as a person. 9 years later, we are still going strong, and I have never forgotten it. Story 35. When you get into a fight, talk about it to move past it instead of doing typical relationship fight behaviors like not talking, saying everything is fine but giving the cold shoulder, blowing it up into a bigger fight, or throwing around insults. I had usually only been with girls who did those things, and the first time I met a girl who just talked it out, I wondered if that was normal. Story 36. I knew I had a keeper when I accidentally wet myself at hers after too many shandies, and she was cool about it. Story 37. The way he treated the waitstaff on our first date was kind and patient. He left a good tip even though they messed up his order. Small things like that tell you everything about someone's character. Story 38. We laugh when we are supposed to cry. We cry and no one cares. We hold to be held. We sleep for comfort, not tiredness. Story 39. When it feels easy, fun, and safe, and you do not have to fake anything around them. You can be yourself, you laugh a lot, and they actually reply without making it a mind game. Story 40. He remembered small details about things I mentioned in passing. 3 months into dating, he surprised me with my favorite candy bar that I had only mentioned once during a random conversation. Story 41. There is friendship between the two of you. You can just hang out without having to do anything romantic. Story 42. When you can bring up something that bothers you, no matter how small, and they do not get defensive, they actually listen, reflect, and respond in a way that shows they care about understanding you, not just winning the moment. Story 43. When both parties take accountability for their actions, compromise on certain matters, understand when and how to handle situations, and communicate effectively. Story 44. If both parties are able to sacrifice something important for their partner, such as time, effort, money, or important events, there are no excuses when your loved ones need you most. Story 45. One of the best early signs is how you handle small disagreements or misunderstandings. If you can talk through things without it turning into a fight, and both people feel heard and respected, that is a great sign. Also, when both people are putting in consistent effort texting, planning, and checking in without it feeling one-sided, that usually means you are on the same wavelength. You feel relaxed around them, not anxious or unsure. If you can laugh together easily, that is usually a good indicator that the connection is real and not forced. Relationships that last often feel calm and safe early on, not like a roller coaster. Story 46. Being there for you when you are not at your best. I had a take-home case study for a job I really wanted at the time, and I had 72 hours to complete whatever I could. Being relatively early in my career, I was overwhelmed and eventually realized at 4 a.m. that this was not going to work out because I was nowhere near done. I started quietly crying at my desk while she was asleep next to me. She woke up, comforted me, and stayed up while I completed what I could. I did not get the job, which worked out fine because I have a much better role now. This is just one example where I can count on leaning on her. That was 6 years ago. We got engaged this past winter and are getting married next year. I am grateful for her every single day. Story 47. I don't know, but sharing a love of grilled cheese is a good start. All jokes aside, as other people have pointed out, active listening is very important. However, I think an even more important factor is that both people put in the effort and that you are not the only one making plans for the two of you. I have experienced both sides. In one relationship, I was always the one who texted first, shared things, and made plans, and the relationship ended badly. I have now experienced the opposite, where someone actively texts me unprompted, makes plans for the weekend, and even for the distant future. If both people are willing to put in the work on communication, then it is safe to assume that if you are compatible, the relationship will work out. Story 48. Early in our engagement, my wife and I went canoeing with some married friends. She had never been, and I had not been for 5 to 10 years. We did very well and had excellent teamwork. Our married friends bickered a bit, but not too much. We got married shortly after college. This September, my wife and I will have been married 32 years. Story 49, having your back. My wife was there early on when I was going through some challenges with my family. I was accused of not doing the right thing, but she witnessed me doing the right thing the whole time. So when the family came down on me, she had my back and argued my point louder than I did. I knew right then and there I had a keeper. Story 50. An early sign that a relationship is likely to work is mutual respect, open communication, and a shared desire to grow together through challenges. This includes being able to have difficult conversations, work through disagreements, and support each other's individual growth. Story 51. Lots of honest communication, but lots of comfortable silence too. One insight I have come to realize is that a good relationship can still end. Sometimes people change, things happen, or you grow apart. Making a relationship work is not only about longevity or living together ever after. It is about striving to live in the moment in a genuine way with someone else and being able to look back, even if it ends and you separate, and know it was a worthwhile part of your life and you are happy to have lived it. Story 52. He approaches things as a team. We are both improving ourselves for the sake of our future children and to be good partners. Story 53. You really want to be with or around the person a lot for reasons other than sex and affection. I think this holds true for non-romantic relationships as well. If I find myself thinking, man, I've got to tell Tralfez about this, out of the blue, then Tralfez and I are probably going to be buddies for a long time. Story 54. If you finish each other's sentences, you have found your best friend. Anything else is just a speed bump. Story 55. Being understanding and empathetic towards each other, and being respectful in all situations, is a sign that the relationship will definitely last for a long time. Story 56. Easy way to tell. Do you feel at peace when you are with your significant other? Can you sit in silence together and feel totally comfortable? Story 57. You sit down for a drink and a bite at 6 o'clock. You suddenly check your phone while she is going to the bathroom, and it is almost midnight. Story 58. When you feel at home with that person, no matter where you are, and you can be completely yourself. Story 59. Easy laughter, no stress on either side. Taking each other as is, where is. Constant smiles. Easy conversation. Story 60. When you are in a straight relationship but he watches gay pornography, goes to an all-boys school, and claims to be straight. When I tell you I ran faster than ever before. Story 61. When you feel safe enough to let your guard down because your system does not tense up when you are with them. Story 62. Agree with everything said here. But to me, it is when everything feels easy, including ones that usually are not. Making long-term plans. Setting boundaries. Admitting mistakes. Asking for an apology. Making up. Story 63. You must both work on it for it to work. Problems, fights, and other issues must be talked about. Do not expect the other person to read your mind. If you are angry, say you are angry because of the reason. For the ladies, it is important to give your partner intimate attention regularly. Waking your partner up with intimacy can greatly improve the relationship. Many problems can be resolved just with that in the morning. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.